Hi, Living Church. As most of you know by the many emails you're getting in your inbox today, I'm guessing, today is Giving Tuesday. And if your inbox is like my inbox, I'm getting all kinds of messages with the hashtag Giving Tuesday, requests from different organizations, businesses to give financially to their ministry, and that's not a bad thing. And as the Spirit leads you to give, I want to encourage you to give to those organizations and businesses. But this morning or today on this Giving Tuesday, I don't want to ask you to give. I'm not going to ask you to give anything. I'm not going to ask you to give to Living Church. Instead, what I want to do is I want to share with you and celebrate with you how your giving to Living Church is impacting and transforming lives locally here in our city, in our own churches, as well as globally. Yes, even around the world. Your giving to Living Church is impacting ministries and lives globally. And I want to share with you how your giving is doing that and share with you a couple stories, if you will, of how your giving is changing and impacting and meeting the needs of people within our churches, our house churches, as well as around the world. Since COVID hit and the lockdowns back in March, I began praying and asking God that during this time when the church could not gather normally, that the giving to Living Church would not decrease as it has for many churches, but actually we would see an increase in our financial giving amongst our house churches and in the movement of Living Church. And so I started praying that because there's a concern that many pastors, many church leaders had, what's going to happen financially to the churches, to the ministries, those kinds of things. And so we began praying. I began praying. That was a personal prayer request between me and God and saying, God, do it. Don't allow the giving to decrease, but let it increase. And I want to tell you, God has answered and is answering that prayer. Since March, the giving to Living Church has increased exponentially. I can't even begin to describe it. We have more in the bank at Living Church than we've ever had in our 10-year history. And I can't explain that other than God. God is doing it. And he's doing it through you. And I'm so thankful. And God is answering that prayer. And I want to celebrate that because God, there's no explanation for what's happening in the giving with Living Church other than God. And so we want to give him all the praise and all the glory. Now, let me share with you a couple of ways that your giving is impacting lives locally and even around the world. Probably in the past 4 months, maybe even less than that, you have given well over $5,000 to meet needs within our house churches. People who maybe have lost their jobs, people who are just struggling financially. And you have given well over $5,000 to meet some of these needs, which is amazing. One need in particular, one recent need, we had someone who was about to be evicted from their apartment because they couldn't make a payment on their rent and they just couldn't get caught up. So one of the things that you did through your giving is you help them get caught up on their rent payments, and now they're in their apartment, staying in their apartment. There's no eviction coming, and you did that to help this person stay where they were and get it back up on their feet in a time of great need. And so that's just one example of how your giving has impacted lives locally, even within our house churches. This is a person who's part of Living Church, and so just want to celebrate that with you. Again, well over $5,000 you've given to meet needs within our house churches of those families and people who have needs. Another way that you're giving, many of you know Pastor Isaiah, and we've shared his story with you before. Just recently, as of a couple days ago, they were in dire need again. They're just here on a religious visa. They're looking to get a work visa soon, but that keeps them from being able to work here in the U.S. So one of the ways that we've helped them as a church is for the month of December, we're paying their rent so that they can live, they can survive, and we're paying their utilities to help meet this need for them so that they can continue to serve African immigrants here in the greater Cincinnati area. So not only is your giving to Living Church impacting lives within our house churches, you're impacting the nations. You're impacting people who are here in this city from Africa. You are doing that by ministering to Pastor Isaiah and his family, and through their ministry, you're having an impact. And it goes more, not just locally and not just to the nations, but your giving is actually impacting a ministry in the nation of Nepal. We've been able to develop a relationship with a missionary there named Hansen. He is from India, and he is living in Nepal and doing a ministry so similar to Living Church, where he's training people to live like missionaries, and then he's training them and he's sending them out to start house churches in the villages where they lived. And it's almost like Living Church in Nepal, and God has connected us with him. And they had a recent need because of the pandemic. You don't think about this a lot, or I don't, that the ripple effect financially that it has on ministries overseas. And because a lot of churches are struggling financially, a lot of churches have had to stop support of Hansen and his ministry in Nepal. But God is blessing Living Church through your giving. And so they were unable to make their rent payment for their training center to train and equip and house these people that they're going to send out to live like missionaries in their villages. And so we said, well, let's cover that for the next 3 months. And so you, Living Church, are helping provide a training center through your giving in Nepal so that we can raise up and send out those from Nepal, those followers of Jesus, to go into the villages and preach the gospel and see people come to know and people are coming to know the Lord through your ministry of giving. I mean, it's amazing what God is doing. And so on this Giving Tuesday, I just want to celebrate God, and I want to share with you, rather than ask you to give, I want to celebrate with you and share with you how your giving is impacting people's lives locally and around the world. This is why we are better together as a family of house churches, where we can put our resources together and make disciples of all nations, beginning in our own Jerusalem right here in Cincinnati, as we help meet each other's needs, help meet the needs of African immigrants through Pastor Isaiah and his ministry, and help meet the needs of those in Nepal so that they can hear the good news of Jesus. Living Church, I am honored to be part of you. I am honored to serve Jesus alongside you. I am honored to give faithfully to our churches and to give to Living Church. I want to encourage you. Your giving is making an impact on people's lives. And I just want to encourage you, this is the blessing of giving to the church, using the resources God gives you to invest in the church is an investment in the people of God, and it's an investment in advancing the kingdom of Jesus locally and around the world. So on this Giving Tuesday, I just want to say thank you, Living Church, for giving. Thank you for being obedient to Jesus. And I trust that sharing this with you is a blessing for your heart, an encouragement for you to continue giving to Living Church as we continue to use the resources God has given us to advance the kingdom of Jesus in our own Jerusalem, our Judea, and our Samaria. And those are just some of the stories. Those are just some of the examples of how your giving is impacting lives. So thank you on this Giving Tuesday. From the leadership of Living Church, we want to say thank you for giving. You are loved.